Hey everyone, and welcome back to another video as part of this AIN3701 course and video series. If you are watching this on YouTube, my name, as you know, is Masoom, and I am running this course and this video series on AIN3701 for you guys, for you know pretty much anyone that wants to learn about the content that's covered in the module, right? So I do run a separate course on this, but there are some videos that are being uploaded onto YouTube. So if you are watching this on YouTube and you are new to the channel, please make sure that you've subscribed to the channel if you would like to receive notification of every time I upload a new video. I don't just do this for AIN, I do it for the other modules as well. So if you would like to be part of this whole initiative and to get some content and some assistance with your studies, then make sure that you have subscribed. I do upload multiple times a week, so there is definitely a lot of content on the YouTube channel for you to work through as well. If you are part of the course and you're working through this, then still make sure that you have subscribed to the channel as well, because obviously the videos there will still help you, and that is in addition to the other material that we will be covering as part of the course. Okay, so getting back to the crux of today's video, in the previous videos we covered the introduction to computational thinking, okay, where we pretty much went through what computational thinking is, and then we looked at the pillars of computational thinking, and we focused on the first pillar, which is decomposition. So those of you who are enrolled in the course had some homework to do. If you watch the video on YouTube, still, I would still suggest and advise that you still followed and did that same homework as well, at least for your own learning. And in the first video, the homework was where you needed to do a bit more research on your own to get a clearer understanding as to what is meant by computational thinking, right? So you're not just learning a textbook definition, because that is what we want to avoid. We don't want to be working with textbook definitions all the time, right? Although, yes, the theory is important to learn, but it's even more important to understand it, because you can't be swatting off and memorizing for the sake of swatting off and memorizing, but then you don't understand what it is that you're swatting and memorizing, because you can't relate it then. How are you going to ever relate it to anything? Okay, so remember, you're not at a point of where you just need to learn laundry lists of things for the sake of knowing things, just in an abstract way. You need to be able to apply things in practical scenarios. So that's why it's really important that you guys make sure that you guys have gone through the theory and that you can apply it. Okay, but that's not the crux of this video. This video is going to be looking at the illustrative example that was part of the homework as part of our first pillar of computational thinking. Okay, and the first pillar of our computational thinking was relating to decomposition. Now remember, what did we say in the first video? And this is something I want to make absolutely clear to you guys. If at this point you either have not watched that first video, you've not worked through that first two videos rather, and you don't know how to explain to me what computational thinking is, you absolutely need to go back to the first two videos, watch those, understand what computational thinking is, be able to explain it in simple terms, and then also the first pillar of computational thinking, which is decomposition. Okay, Because if you don't understand that, you're not going to understand how to do the illustrative example that's following. Okay, you're going to be wasting your own time attempting it. Okay, remember the videos are all building on from one another. So you need to make sure, absolutely need to make sure that the foundation is right. Okay, so if you don't know what's happening in the first two videos, please make sure you've gone back. Now, nonetheless, let's go into the video that we have now, and let's read through the illustrative example. Right, so it says, you are employed at Ikishi Likagogo. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but yeah. And it's a company that manufactures bread, cakes, and South African delights. Right? So I would highlight this. For me, this makes sense. This is something important. Bread, cakes, and South African delights, because it's giving me information as to what the company's operations are surrounding, right? And just highlight that again. Right. So it's highlighting what these points are. It's highlighting what the company's operations are, rather. Okay? Because remember, right, the company's operations are evolving around this. So the company's decisions will also be revolving around this, right? The problems that the company has, all of that is going to be revolving around this. So it's important for you guys to be familiar with it, okay? It gives you background to the company as well. I mean, this already tells me that the company is in the manufacturing industry. It's not just like a normal retail company. It is a manufacturer. So those aspects, pros and cons that are applicable to a company in the manufacturing industry, the factors in terms of compliance or laws and regulations, or just the normal characteristics of a company that is operating in the manufacturing industry would apply to this company. The risks relating to a company that operates in the manufacturing industry would also apply to this company. That's how you need to be thinking about it. Okay. So again, reading with understanding, not just reading for the sake of reading. Okay. So the next sentence goes on to say, these products are then sold and distributed to their customers within South Africa, but also to the rest of the world. Okay. So actually, let me rather, I say this is important. Now, answer this on your own, right? Make a note of it or type it in the comments, right? And like I said, if you are watching this on YouTube, then by all means, type in the comments if you have any questions or your answer to the questions I've posed. Type those in the comments so that I can come back and see whether you've actually answered it correctly or not. Right? Why is it important that this point was highlighted also to the rest of the world? Think about that for a minute. Because I definitely did not highlight it for the sake of highlighting it. So why is that important? It's important for a reason, surely. Okay, I think that's enough time to think about that point. So the fact that the company distributes these products all around the world shows us that the company does operate on a global scale. So from a financial perspective, we're thinking about foreign exchange, right? So foreign exchange is the one thing, right, in terms of the accounting for it, but then there's also risks. Okay, so that's what we need to think of, because it makes sense that if we are exporting, there are certain risks that we would be exposed to that, you know, selling local wouldn't expose us to. And the biggest of those, yes, would be, foreign exchange fluctuation, or fluctuations in foreign exchange rates. But there can be so many other things like, delivery. I mean, there's obviously a lot more in terms of delivery costs that would be incurred. Goods, making sure that customers get them on time, and with them being perishable goods, that becomes quite a big concern. So that's something that you need to be thinking about. Okay. Right. So then let's continue from that point, right? The founder and CEO of the company is Tsegofacho Duma, who has won various business and innovation awards in South Africa. So that's great. And you report to the financial director, Angelique Janssen, who qualified as a CA 15 years ago. So the company, I'm not going to even try and pronounce that again, so I'm just going to refer to it as the company, right? Operates three divisions, okay? Namely breads, cakes, and SA Delights, right? So again, zoom in and highlight that. The reasons for this are, quite clear. I have explained that already to you. And this is something that you should be making notes of, okay? Because it's giving you context about the company, right? Each division is an investment center, okay? So this should take you back to your Mac, and you should be thinking about what an investment center is. What is a cost center? What is an investment center? The difference between the two. I'm not going to go through all of that in detail now, but this is what you need to be thinking along the lines of. Okay, because do you see the interrelationship between your modules? Right, so you can't study this in isolation. It can never work. It's never going to work. You need to be putting all of this together, because at the end of the day, the computerization is just, all of it coming together in a digital way, if we can really, put it that way. But at the end of the day, everything is linked to each other. Okay, there is that link, and that's where the integration really comes in. Okay, so continuing again, in an investment center, divisional managers are responsible for both sales and revenues and costs, and they have reasonable authority to make capital investment decisions. So I'd say that you guys were fortunate in this regard, where the lecturer did include this inside your illustrative, for example, or case study. But it is something that you should know. Okay, so don't assume that you're always going to be told what certain terms mean. You should just know it as a precaution. Actually, not even just as a precaution. You are studying towards a professional qualification, guys, so you need to behave like a professional as well, right? So it's not enough just to do the bare minimum for these things. Okay, moving on. Ms. Duma presented the following charts at the first management meeting on 5 January 2023. So, dates are an accountant's best friend. So we need to highlight this because it tells us where in the timeline we are. Where did this event happen? So that we can plot it out and map it out so that we understand. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do at this point is just to zoom in on this a little bit so that I think you guys can see it anyway. And what is important for you guys, I'm going to give you guys a minute to analyze this graph, because looking at the graph is great, but please look at the graph. And now this is the time for you to test whether you can understand how to interpret information that's given to you. And if not, then what you need to be working on to rectify that problem, right? So this is your opportunity to do that. So that's what we're going to do now, right? Going to give you guys a minute to look at this graph. If you are watching this video on YouTube, then please type in the comments what you picked up from this graph, what information you are deriving from it. If you are seeing this as part of the course, you can also type in the comments on the student portal under the video, and you can make notes there and say what are the points that you are able to infer from the graph. So I'm going to give you a minute to do this. Okay, I think I think that's enough time. So from here, you should obviously see what the revenue figures for the various points of the year, or the three particular years that were given, right? 2012, 2020, and 2022, right? So you have the three revenue figures for these years. That's number one. Now, secondly, you can see that there is a trend that you can pick up. From 2012 to 2020, there was an increase in revenue. But then from 2020 to 2022, there was a decline in our revenue. So that's the second thing that you would have picked up. And then the last thing that you can look at is just to see what the net growth in the revenue over the 10-year period was, which would obviously just be the revenue in 2022 less the revenue in 2012 divided by the revenue in 2012, multiply that by 100. So those of you who are watching, please do that in the comments to see what percentage do you get when you are doing the calculation. Okay, just see that you are doing the calculation properly. I'll give you just a little while to do that. But please do type your answer in the comments to see what is the net change in your revenue, your increase or decrease. Okay, I think that's enough time for that. So then the Mrs. Duma made the following remark, right? When we started the company in 2012, we committed to provide a high quality product at a reasonable price. Okay. Therefore, the main marketing activity of the company was through word of mouth. Okay, so that is brilliant for us to understand. And I would just say, let's, highlight that as well. Okay. Now, this strategy worked brilliantly when we experienced an increase in revenue consistently in 2020, or till 2020 rather, right? In 2021, we experienced a decline in sales, and managers of the divisions assured me that the COVID pandemic was the reason thereof. However, now in 2022, there is another decline. Ladies and gentlemen, I therefore do not buy your excuse of the pandemic as a decline in sales. I want to ask our new recruit, which is you, how can we solve this problem? Okay. And this is where the question then comes in to say, okay, great, this is 1.1. How do we then go about answering this? Okay, how do we go about answering this query that has been posed to us by by Mrs. Duma or Ms. Duma? Okay, and the question or the reflection 1.1 or the required basically says, let's start this process by making use of decomposition. Note, we are not going to provide a solution immediately, but we are working to come with a solution through computational thinking. So what would you advise Mrs. Duma to do next? She was Ms. Duma a little bit before. And now she's Mrs. Miss over there. And she's become Mrs. there. So, yeah. Okay. Life is moving fast, clearly. So this is something that now you need to be thinking. So, and when we mention computational thinking now, you might be thinking of it in complex terms already. Okay. And what we're going to do is we're going to break it down in the next video. Okay. In this video, we've looked at the detailed aspects of how you go through the question and how you need to be thinking about it. But then in the next video, right, which is part 2 of this, we're going to actually discuss all of this to then start saying, okay, how do we go about answering this question? What are the things that we look at? What are the things that we think about? What are the things that we need to take into consideration in responding to this request? Okay, so that's where I'm going to leave it for now. We will discuss it in more detail in the next video. If you are enrolled, please make sure that you are, keep your eye out for the notification for this, for the next video that will come up. You should receive a notification via your email. For those of you who are not enrolled, I would recommend that you subscribe to the YouTube channel by hitting that subscribe button and then clicking on the bell icon, so that every time I do upload something, you will receive a notification and you will see it there, right? So I'm gonna leave it there for now. I hope this video was useful, helped you go through the reading process, helped open your mind and see how you need to be working through this, and makes the whole aspect or concept look less daunting and scary, or makes it look a lot more relatable. Okay, so until then, good luck with the studying, all the best with it, and I will see you guys in the next video, where we will discuss what you would advise Miss or Mrs. Duma to do next.